Welcome back to I Bought Toys Today. It's the show where two old friends enjoy the best part about the toy collecting hobby, telling each other about the toys we bought. I'm John,
I'm Kohan.
and today it's not just I Bought Toys today, it's I Bought Toys this year. Welcome to our end of the year episode where we're going to talk about our top 10 figures from 2023. Now, most, I say most, I have nothing to base this research on. Um, I think a lot of action figure channels and toy collecting channels, when they get to this time of the year and are doing their top 10 lists, a lot of them focus on stuff that came out this year. We're not that cool.
Nope.
And a lot of our collecting is based on nostalgia and trying to complete collections. So we bought a lot of stuff that came out this year, came out last year, came out in 1985. And anywhere in between.
Yeah.
So we have one rule for our end of the year top 10 list is we had to buy it this year.
Yep.
So no matter when it came out, as long as we bought it in calendar year of the 2023 year of our Lord, it's eligible.
And I will say
Um,
this: that there are several figures that I look at and go, "Dang, I didn't buy them this year." But the one caveat I'm going to put on my top 10 is right there. That will always be my number one. I excluded the USS flag from this list because it was too easy. It was too easy. That was number one. Everything else is going to be filler. The flag will always be the top of the list of the toys I've ever bought. So right there will not be included in this list because it owns its own place in history of my collection. John?
yeah, including the flag would have been a little too unfair.
Yeah.
It's top 10 asterisk uh, figures of the year. So Kohan had to sit down and be like, okay, other than the flag, what's my top 11 list?
And that's true.
And I don't know about you, but when I was putting my list together, um, I came up with way more than 10 figures.
Yeah, I came up with 20, 25, give or take.
Oh, so you just got to 10 and you were just like pedal to the metal. Let's keep
All
going.
I did was just start listing the figures I thought would fit in the top 10. There's some fun figures I bought I didn't think belonged in the top 10. And some I'm like, did I buy them this year or last year? So I kind of left them off. I couldn't remember when I got them. But when I got to that 25-ish number, I started going through and trying to rank, and it was not as easy as I thought it was going to be.
I did kind of the same thing because there are episodes of the show like that eBay episode where I'm pretty sure I had more than 10 figures in that one episode.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of cutting. There was also just a lot of me staring at a figure and going, "Did I buy that this year?
Uh huh. That was the same thing. Because
Did
January was a long time ago.
yeah? Did I buy that in May or February? Or last October? It's all the same thing, and I have no idea for
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things.
I left a lot of fun figures off. I try to kind of diversify my top 10, even though there were so many that like I said could have made the list, but I just kind of went with overall something that evoked an emotion or something I had never seen. Um, it was tough. It really was tough when I started, like, literally when I sat in here, was looking around, looking at all these figures and going, like, for instance, that whole DX shelf. Though I love those figures, none of them are in my top 10. And in fact, I have zero wrestlers in my top 10, and I bought a lot this year.
You got a good amount of wrestlers. That's
Yeah,
surprising.
and but to whittle them out, That was hard. I mean, Bret Hart, David Boy Smith, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, some really good stuff, really good looking figures, but just
Okay.
not where they fell in my top 10.
My system was similar in that it was sort of equally impenetrable and mostly just completely subjective. Um,
Oh, yeah.
I think I tried to put mine in order of just what am I the most happy to have.
And I think that's where
So
mine
it's
came
a
down to.
personal happiness system, if you will.
It was not only happy, but it was also like, what a great figure. Or yeah, I think no, I think it comes down to like what made me happy. And obviously, you're going to see a lot of what we've talked about in previous episodes, but that's what this is. It's a recap
And
in America.
that's what I was sort of wondering about. Um, was that if you had done the same thing I have and just based it on sort of general happiness,
Yeah,
uh, because if that's not what this show is about, what are we even doing here?
right.
Um, so run through your honorable mentions, if you would.
Just quickly, I mentioned the wrestlers, but like even the GI Joe, I'm looking up here, the GI Joe classifieds: Crocmaster, Shipwreck, Cover Girl, Torpedo, Snow Job, all great characters. The Sergeant Slaughter, you got me for my birthday. Just great looking figures. And, and see, and this is where the X Men shelf I can't remember when I got some of them, and I couldn't remember if it was the end of last year, beginning of this year. There's a Luke Cage figure, a couple of She-Hulk figures that are fun, a Cap figure, um, several GI Joe vehicles. You can't see them, but they now adorn my USS flag asterisk. Um, the Snowcat, the Wolverine, the Skyhawk. Um, so
You
there's
got a lot of good vehicles this year.
yeah, and relatively expensive. I'm Bray Wyatt is staring at me. Another great figure. Um, but again, they were great, but not in the top 10.
Mm.
And I'm sure there's more, and I know there's more. The Firefly figures, the D&D figures, they're fine, but um, not worthy of the 10.
And I'm glad you mentioned those two specifically because in my list of honorable mentions, there were also a handful of like sets or lines that I picked up, like the good old Wildcats, um, just sprinkled all over there. That I'm pretty sure I got all of them this year. Maybe not Zealot. No, I got her at Toy Hio, I think. Um,
And that was February, right?
yeah. Um, so it was great adding uh, that whole line over time.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. All the Super 7 Thundercats that I got this year, and there's only a handful of them. Um, my regular and invisible Tigra, Panthro, uh, Lino. I love having those, both because they are the upgraded versions of the ones I had as a kid, and in the case of Panthro, the one I didn't have as a kid that I always wanted. So that was a lot of fun. There are a couple other ones that I don't think ever also didn't end up on the show. Um, like at goodness March maybe of this year,
Mm-hmm.
um, I got a message from a old friend who I'd known since elementary school, haven't seen since high school. He and his family are moving, and they were going through a lot of stuff. And one of the things that he was interested in, um, sort of seeing if he could sell off, was his entire collection of Exo Squad figures.
Oh wow.
And I went, well, you're in luck because I am the person you need to talk to. Because I love Exo Squad. Don't talk about it as much as I should on this show. But Exo Squad was a show before its time. It did not have to go as hard as it did, but like it's a it's a kid show about like war crimes and like breeding your own like slave class and like, and it's also an awesome toy line because it has sort of features that I just adore, in that it's little guys in really complicated suits with a ton of accessories that are therefore impossible to find loose and um, way too expensive to find in box. But talking to this old friend, shout out to Matt, I'm sure he's watching. Um, but he had a bunch of them in fantastic conditions, including like all the ones I could have ever hoped to find. So I got a fantastic, like 98% complete Exo Squad collection, and that was
Excellent.
such a wonderful highlight of this show.
Cool.
I don't think I talked about it on the show either, but it's one that you got to enjoy talking about. But I got my Phantoms this year. NECA had a couple of lines of like these classic heroes. Um, they had both like the just old school classic pulp golden age versions of Phantom and Flash Gordon, but then they had the Defenders of the Earth version as well. And I searched around to make sure I got all of those. This one I had to search particularly long and hard for, which is why he's the one I grabbed off the shelf for this one. Um, because those as much as I like inexplicably random stuff, I say sitting in front of my Skeleton Warriors figures, um, I just love that old golden age sort of sci-fi heroism that they packaged up in Defenders of the Earth. Um, it was one of those shows, kind of like Ronin Warriors, that I didn't see enough of as a kid, but was fascinated by. And I remember the really old Galoob Defenders of the Earth uh, toys from when I was young, so it's a lot of fun to have those. Um, and that's like stuff that didn't make the list somehow.
Yeah, and it was stuff. I mean, like for instance, I'm looking down there. As cool as he is, Ram Man did not make the top 10.
Yeah,
As great a figure as he is, this Becky Lynch figure holding the first women's SmackDown champion, good looking figure. Actually, just watched the end of that match today on a top 10 list. Didn't make it. Yeah, there were so many. I mean, if we just did list in order of the figures you've bought this year, which from beginning to end, it would still be hard to do, even if we listed all of them.
wow. You not having a Becky Lynch on your figure of the year list is kind of a spoiler as far as I'm concerned.
Well, to be fair, she's the only. I mean, all the Becky figures I got, she's the only one I got this year.
Hmm.
But I'm looking at all those wrestlers and going, I mean, that Bret Hart and that Davey Boy are great figures, but they didn't strike the chord that some of these did for me.
Well, how about we jump into the actual top 10 list
All right.
and see what made the cut. Um, and I will say, before we jump in, I have no idea what's on yours.
I have about two
And
or
and
three that I think are on yours, but
I'm about the same, especially now that you've talked about a few things that aren't on it. That's helped narrow it down a little bit. Um, but boy, doing this show has helped me realize there's a lot you had to pick from.
mm-hmm.
So this is gonna be fun.
Yeah. Do you want to start us
So
off with number 10, or do you want me to?
now you want to start us off with number 10?
All right, number 10. It was an odd figure, not even something I knew existed. My last trip to Ohio, but when I saw it, I had to have it. I've talked about this before, but starting us off is the creator himself, Stanley. What a fun figure. Stan the Man, the creator of Marvel Comics. I know all the controversy in your hand, but who cares? With a cap shield signed, another signature across the box. I know it's it's lithographed down there, whatever the hell it's called nowadays. But Stan the Man starts off number 10 as a nod to all these great figures that fill these shelves. Stanley, number 10.
That one's great. Yeah, that's a figure you're never gonna like not be happy to see.
Mm-hmm.
My number 10 is a very recent edition. Just talked about it last episode, so it's the newest one on the list. So I'm going with the Inferno armor, my white Ronin warrior. Last episode when I talked about this, it was still in the box, but I've gotten to take it out, put it together, put it in a couple different poses. Um, it's such an intricate, um, not complicated, but complex sort of figure. Um, the way some of the armor snaps together, like some of it is magnets, some of it is not. Um, they came up with just a brilliant system to like put the head in the helmet and attach it all to the body. It comes with a bunch of different faces. It's gorgeous, and it feels like so delicate and like well crafted. And it's I also sort of wanted to include it because it's so far from a lot of the stuff I usually collect. In that I think this was like I don't know how to put it without sounding corny. Like this is a grown up toy. Like we talk about like Marvel Legends and GI Joe classifieds and stuff, and those are wonderful figures. But like this is an adult collectible, um, and it's just real cool to have on my shelf. So that's what I wanted to start my list out with. Little Inferno armor. My ninth figure couldn't be as big of a jump to the left uh, if I even could have tried. Couldn't be further from the last one. It's a just a personal figure. It's 9 on the list, number 1 in your heart. It's my boy Stinkor.
Okay, all right. That's one of that was one of the ones I had on this list.
And my only regret is that he's not higher on the list, because I've talked about Stinkor a couple episodes ago. Um, he's one of my favorite Masters of the Universe villains, and this is just a fantastic figure, from the wacky colors to just the crazed expression on his face. I'm a big fan of everything about him, and I
Can we
love seeing
create
him
a
on my
moment?
shelf.
Can we create a moment?
Sure,
Uh,
you can
smell him.
try.
Smell him.
We did that
No, no,
already.
smell him.
It's plastic.
Plastic.
Plastic. Definitely plastic.
Definitely.
Um, but I was thrilled to pick up Stinkor this year, and he's really kickstarted. Once I got him out of the box, and I was like, this is great. Um, he's really got me moving into like maybe not collecting more Masters of the Universe stuff just because he was so cool. So you're up.
My number 9. I talked about this at great length. I think on our very first show, but it's got to be the Bantha. It's got to be the Bantha. Just again, the real fur, the Tuscan Raider on top, movable legs. Unfortunately, the mouth is not open, but just what a great piece. Again, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Just a phenomenal piece. Good looking, well done. The real hair. I mean, your elephant in disguise is Bantha right there at number 9. Number 8
It's
for
very good.
me is much more personal, um, because it's one of my all-time favorite comic book characters. Um, Great rendition of her, particularly from the show. I don't care what people think about her or the show. I love the show. I love the books. I love her. Give me some Jennifer Walters, aka the sensational She-Hulk. So basic, so plain, doesn't need a whole lot. Yes, I think she came with two different hands, and that was about it. And I'm okay with that because she's just Jen, man. And I love me the sensational She-Hulk. I've been a fan of hers. I can't say since her inception, but definitely since the late '80s, early '90s. Shulky is one of my all-time favorite characters. I love the show. I thought it was a great nod to the character. I don't care what people think overall about it. I enjoyed the heck out of it. Um, the fourth wall breaking. The This is a lawyer show, not a superhero show. Give me some Jen any day of the week. She's right here in my heart. This is right there. That's my number 8 is Jen.
My number 8 is one of my favorite comic book characters as well. Um, and this year I was very happy to finally have him in a form that I honestly didn't quite know existed. So my number 8 is Shatterstar 3, the old Toy Biz version. Uh, Pulled the loose one down. I'm also happy to have a carded one there. And I know he's just a straight up one for one repaint of Shatterstar 2. But I love that there's actually an acknowledgement of the purple and gold era of X Force. Um, I was just thrilled to finally get a figure that like I kind of knew existed but had never actually seen and had never encountered in the wild and sort of had only heard legends about. Um, and he looks great up on my shelf with all my other little Shatter Stars. Um, and I've been really thrilled to sort of flesh out just my X Force collection in general. And he's a real sort of icing on top of the cake
Mm-hmm.
to all that. So happy to have Shatterstar 3. What was 8? 7's a goodie. My number 7, I tried not to do this too often. So this is the only time it actually appears in the top 10. But my number 7 is a whole line of figures, not just a single one. Because for my number 7, um, a surprise entry was my Mutant X figures. These are really the highlight of my questionable eBay decisions, with just this weird line from this short-lived alternate reality series. Um, Figures that I'd never seen, um, like actually in the wild, never run into them at a show or barely ever in a store. But once they actually arrived, these were so darn cool. They were much weirder and much better than they had any right being. And they've been hanging up on the wall ever since. And I only bothered to pull down the Storm and the Archangel because they're sort of the two weirdest ones. If you remember Vampire Storm with her soft goods leather coat, um, these turned out so cool. And like I said, they just sit up on the shelf, and I always get such a kick out of looking at them, um, and ranking these out of like what makes me the happiest that I have them. I'm real glad I got these guys
Yeah.
because they were so odd, um, but I almost wish like I'd found another set so I had ones to like take out, because I think especially like this weird vampire version of Archangel would be cool to have on a shelf with his wings off. So the Mutant X line, just 4 of them. There's the Madeline Pryor one and the Havoc one. They're fantastic as well, but I don't want it to get too crowded down here. Um, big fan of these weirdos. They were a great addition this year.
Oh, good. My number 7 might surprise you. Of all the figures I could have chosen from, I just think this is a great figure. Um, I actually really loved her character when she first appeared, and when I was reading comics heavily in their late '90s into the 2000s. Um, it's Jubilee. The what a great rendition. The colors, the bubblegum face is the piece de resistance. Her glasses. I love me some Jubilee. She was a B grade Kitty Pride for Wolverine to be the new mentor for, but I love me some Jubes. And, oh yeah, and I just think she's a great figure, and just the colors, like I said, the gum, the glasses, just a fun figure is Jubilee, and so she makes my top 10 at no at coming in at number 7. Number 6, I'm waffling here, and I'm gonna change the original order. So this was originally my number 5. I'm moving him back to number 6. Um, but it's a and we've talked about this before. It's a character you told me about, and I was like, he needs to be mine. Oh yes, it's Worthy Cap. It's
Was
Worthy
wondering.
Cap. What like I mentioned on the episode when I got him after we visited the toy department. Avengers when Shunk Avengers assemble, one of the greatest moments in cinematic history ever, ever, and to have Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, Captain America with Mjolnir, and I gotta fix his shield, but just a must, and a good figure. So there you go.
I did not include the worthy cap that I got this year, um, partially because I was betting that you would. I was like, Cohan will use his, so we can check that off the list. Speaking of figures that just have great head sculpts and bright colors, and are just fantastic. My number 6, going to go back to Masters of the Universe, uh, for Too Bad. I don't know if it's a popularity contest and I have to decide whether or not I like Stinkor or Too Bad better as villains. I don't know who wins that. Um, but I think just technically, this is just a more remarkable figure. Um, the way they handled the two heads is fantastic. The size of him is just wonderful. Um, the colors are garish and beautiful. Um, and I've had a heck of a time, uh, a heck of a good time, just posing him with his various weapons, his classic shield, that the original version also came with, and it feels, if I'm rating them on figures that I get joy out of looking at, um, 6 feels lower than it should, because every time that I see this guy up there, and he is right next to Stinkor on the shelf, so that doesn't hurt. Um, this big guy makes me smile. His original figure was one of my favorite bad guys. It was such a weirdly designed figure because of the two heads that it had to have, that the giant like immovable chest with the punchy
I was
spring
gonna say
loaded
with their spring-loaded punch
arms on the
arms, where
thing.
he punched himself in the face.
Yes, it was such a weird figure, but in a way it worked, and it was actually a lot of fun to play with him and just have him punch the heck out of He-Man. um, so he saw a good deal of action. And between him and Stinkor, like after I got these two, how could I not be excited about getting more Masters of the Universe figures?
Yeah.
So after Too Bad, it should be no surprise, that my number 5 figure is not a Masters of the Universe figure. We're going to go back into beloved comic book figures, for number 5, and pull out Night Thrasher. Fantastic design, like simple costume that just looks great. Um, My local comic book store is going out of business, which is a bummer. Um, but they're also sort of clearing out a lot of, well, all of their stock. So I've been able to pick up some old New Warriors issues recently, um, and just that Mark Bagley art with Night Thrasher's like costume. It he's such a good looking comic book hero, and I was thrilled this year to finally find him complete. And I'd been building out my New Warriors team for a little while, um, mostly because I'm a fan and I was amazed that they were making them, because I would have lost a bunch of money if you had me bet as to whether or not they would ever make a Speedball or a Rage action figure. But once I started building the team, it was a search to find Night Thrasher, um, but he was incredibly important to that collection, and he looks great up there. He's just fantastic.
Coming in at number 5. And again, I could have probably done a top 10 of G.I. Joe classifieds, the end. Um, so when I wanted to pick one that really stood out to me this year, out of all the ones I purchased, like I mentioned, Crocmaster, Shipwreck, Covergirl, Snow Job, Torpedo, Bazooka, so many good ones. But one of my favorite renditions, I'll just screw with it later, is Spirit and Freedom. Just what a great updated figure, doing the original character justice, having freedom with two sets of wings, and you can make him fly or you can make him peg on his backpack, which that's what I happened when I tried to pick him up before he fell off. So I was cursing because I don't want to break the pegs, but on the same token, they're not the easiest things to get in. They should be, but just no, don't fall. Just how what a sweet looking figure, right? And so good. Get that in there. And that was the other problem, was his gun was falling out. That was the other problem. But just and one of my favorite figures, one of my favorite characters in GI Joe was always Spirit. Yes, it was very trope in the 1980s how they made him, very Native American, very very stereotyped. But they've done him, I think, justice since then. And even I think they didn't do too bad of a job overall in the original series with him, and what kind of guy he is and how great he is. So Spirit and Freedom coming at number 5. I must have lied. I forgot because I was thinking WWE. Number 4, I do have one wrestling figure, and he's very nice and very evil. He is still in box. He is Danhausen. Yes, very nice, very evil. Oh, just, just. I remember the first time I saw him on YouTube, and I don't even remember what I was watching, and it popped up and it says Danhausen steals this from Toy Store, and I was like, what? And I watched him like, who is this guy? Who is this loser? What the hell is he doing? And then he kept popping up, and I'd watch him going, why am I watching this? And the more I watched him, the more I fell in love with him. And then, he was in, I think, Ring of Honor at the time, and then he moved up. He's since moved up to AEW. But it's his videos. I watched one today. He posted it. It's him unboxing toys he got, and he's just in like his dog is barking in the background. He's like, "You're causing mayhem!" And oh. He's just so ridiculously funny. And then you were there when I met him, and when I talked to the guy, just very pleasant, very friendly, very nice, very evil. Danhausen, good dude. Like Dan Larson. We haven't shouted out Dan Larson yet.
So what are we up to? Number 4?
Yes, you should be on 4.
Okay, I'm very excited about my number 4. Because after I got Too Bad, one of the things that I liked about him, is he was a big boy. And throughout this year, I've come to realize I like a big action figure.
Yeah, you do.
So number 4 is a pretty big one, and it's my Mum-Ra, the Ever Living.
Okay, I thought he'd be there too.
Oh yeah, how could he not be? We just talked about him a couple episodes ago after I picked him up at PowerCon, and he's just been terrorizing the top row of my top shelf ever since. Just with his ridiculously giant double bladed sword, which made getting him down off the shelf incredibly difficult. Um, but luckily, he didn't take anybody with him. Like the wired soft goods cape is such a great backdrop for him up there, and it really makes just everything else stand out. Um, the face sculpt is fantastic. I was at a local shop a couple of weeks ago, and they had like a life size Mumra the Ever Living helmet on sale there for I think like $400. Um, so I never would have considered it, but I did look at it for a second and go, hmm.
Hmm.
hmm. Um, but just like the simple things they've done, like the way that the sort of hooks on his bracelets clip onto his cape to keep it open, to just his sheer size are fantastic. I've been thrilled to get Mum Ra, and he's really done a lot for that big shelf, which has really just turned into '80s cartoon villains at this point.
That's a good shelf, though.
Um,
That's a good shelf.
it's a good it's a good shelf. For number three, somebody who's on that same shelf who's really throwing off the numbers because he's not an '80s cartoon villain is my New Adventures He-Man figure.
So he's just fighting all of them.
Yes. Um, Talked about New Adventure Skeletor not long ago, who found a spot up there next to this guy. Um, but he's similar to like when I was talking about the New Warriors, when I was so thrilled to see that the new line wasn't just going to forget about the New Adventures figures, and they haven't come out with a ton of them yet. But I think this version of He-Man is just so good. It's very different from the original design, and that's fine. Um, I think if it was too similar, that might have been a bad thing because then why would you even do a redesign? And I've talked about how much I enjoy just the in general that mix of sci-fi and fantasy that He-Man brings in general, but especially the New Adventures one is great. Like the Power Sword is fantastic with that green blade. Um, I had like an actual real child size like I think they call them role playing toys now. Like I had a New Adventures shield and sword when I was a little kid, um, and they saw a lot of work. That poor blade was barely standing up straight. It had so many like bends and dents in it and stuff by the time it was set to retire. But I'm so happy that this fantastic version exists because I had New Adventures He-Man, um, the like original figure, and this does exactly what I like modern day figures to do,
Mm-hmm.
in that it takes that design and just makes it into like a good grown up looking figure, and that's exactly what this is. It doesn't have any weird play gimmicks. It just looks good and is a fantastic, like, well proportioned, good looking representation of the character. And he comes with his armor and his helmet, as well as a sword and shield, and he's fantastic. One of the best figures I picked up this year for good reason.
Well, I barked about this fella a couple episodes ago because again he comes with the greatest accessory known to man.
Uh,
It's Fezzik and his peanut.
uh,
The peanut itself is just the piece de resistance, but this this gigantic Andre the Giant Fezzik and the Princess Bride, one of the most perfect movies ever created. And I love all the figures. I mean, Wesley almost made or the Men in Black almost made the list because he's just a gorgeous figure. But you can't go wrong. No, this big, talk about big beefy guys, right? There you go. I mean, if you could feel the heft of this guy, anybody want a peanut, you talk to Fezzik. He's got one for you. That's number three.
Did you at any point, not discounting how good Fezzik is, but at any point did you consider just including the peanut?
Yes, I almost did the
Okay.
peanut in the water bottle as a package. um, Number two, this almost became my number one because of recent events. If you watched our short, I apologize if I get a little emotional here, but last Tuesday, my father passed away, and I love the guy. Sorry, and that's why this really, I kind of really wanted to do one of these because I need to work through all this stuff. But he was a great guy. I mean, I love the man. What can you say? He was my dad. And if you watched our short, you know who I'm already going to talk about. And I did get him this year, so I can include it because I had him previously. But when we went to the toy department in Cincinnati over the summer, I got Gung Ho. And regardless of the events with my father, as I mentioned on that little short, I think Gung Ho is top four. It kind of goes like Snake Eye, Scarlet Duke, Gung Ho. I mean, those are my four favorite GI Joes, depending on the day. But GH is again one of my favorite Joes. Love the character. Love they redid him in his classic uniform. This knife just doesn't want to go all the way, and I don't want to force it. But as I mentioned in that short, reminds me a lot of my dad, and those reasons he almost went to number one. But that's reserved for something else. But GH is my number two, and it's a salute to my dad as well. I miss him. I love him. But there he is, number two, Gung Ho. John.
A great pick. I mean, talk about basing things off of, toys that make you happy.
Yeah, I
That's
apologize.
a good one to look at the shelf and see and let it bring a smile to your face. I I feel bad at this point because I feel that my final two figures are the most predictable things in the world.
I think mine is too.
If if you've if like you've watched any of our
I
episodes,
know what your number
uh,
one is.
and I'm pretty sure if you know what number one is, you can probably guess what number two is, especially now that you've seen everything else.
I'm still not sold on number two. My head's going in too many different directions right now.
Yeah, you're probably thinking way too hard,
Probably.
because number two might be. I'll make it. This is YouTube. Let's make it dramatic. This might be the most important figure I bought all year. Even though it's not number one, it might be the one that like I would save in a fire, which is why
Yep.
it's
Okay.
Cyclops.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the Marvel Legends Dark Phoenix 2-pack Cyclops, which I believe was exclusive to Toys R Us as
Oh
well,
wow.
which makes it an even bigger pain in the butt. Talk about things we picked up when we were down at the toy department. Um, this was the thing that I went there for, um, and it added so much to my collection. It completed the arcade game team, the Pride of the X-Men team that I had been building for so long. It basically completed my Cyclops collection because it was pretty much the only Cyclops that I didn't have. And it's great. It's still like the head on him is just so good. It's the best version of this version of Cyclops, and it's arguably the best version of Cyclops, even though he comes with no accessories. He doesn't even have like a head where he's just wearing like sunglasses. His ankles are just the worst. To the point where it was fun taking him down for this because I tape both of his feet, because I quickly found that one just wasn't enough. So he gets lots of support up there. Um, but seeing him as part of my collection not only fills me with joy, but also gives me like a sense of relief. Um, it's like finding,
Nemo.
I don't know, it's like finding the magic item at the end of the quest and just being like, it's finished now. Like now I can rest. So it's great to have um, this Cyclops on the actual handwritten list that I put together to organize these. He is written down as Final Cyclops.
That's pretty good.
So if that tells you anything, my top figure of the year, um, my MVP, the thing that I was waiting for and looking for, talked about plenty on this show. Finally got my grubby little mitts on him.
Oh, tell me he's open. Tell me he's open.
Is Monstar,
There we go.
King of Limbo. He's big, he's red, he's so heavy. He'll punch a Silverhawk.
Dead in the
Um,
face.
this is how I keep him posed on the shelf. By the way,
That's
like
fantastic.
I got up in a chair and fished him down so gingerly, like just sort of up and like angling him as to not disturb anybody else, because I adore the fact that he takes up so much space on that one dumb shelf that I thought, how can I make him take up even more space? Because I posed Mumra similarly, but
Oh,
like,
wow.
look at him.
Yeah.
Like he makes Mumra look little, and he's such a beefy guy, um, and just a wonderful like next level version of the figure that I had when I was younger, because that original 1980s whatever, um, Monstar is just looks so small, um, in comparison. To be fair, everything looks small compared to this Monstar, um, but finally getting a Monstar that is like at the scale that he should be is terrifying, because I don't know why the Silverhawks didn't like fight him one time and go, I don't get paid nearly enough for this. Like I'm out. Um, I'm not going back out there and getting destroyed by that 12-foot tall crystalline juggernaut and his like space squid or whatever the heck he used to ride around on. Um, he's fantastic, and he's the best figure that I bought this year, and the figure that adding to my collection just made me the happiest and continues to do so every time I see him. And let's not kid ourselves, there's no way I can't see him because he's huge.
That's fantastic.
Like he's up there again, you know, it it's him, Serpentor, and Mumra, and he somehow finds a way to be like the biggest, most intimidating thing.
Yeah.
He's so good. I don't even know if I'd like him if he was all chromed, like the old school Silverhawks, where I think that might just be too much. Um, but he's been just the perfect addition. Could not be happier with Monstar. Um, I did feel bad because I've included him, but not like normal Monstar,
Well, that's doubling up. You don't want to do that.
and that was my thinking. like he can stand for both, because that other Monstar is fantastic, and just the fact that they made like, you know, regular version Monstar is in itself fantastic. So he's representing the whole team of himself and himself, um,
That's a good
and
pick. But
you know,
I
just
knew deep
standing.
down, I knew deep down where that was going to be your one. Like, you know, my one.
Yeah, like this was a clear winner this year. Um, he's number one on the list for so many reasons, and he's already got a good shot of being number one in next year's list. I don't know how, but you tell him no. Like,
Well, just buy one and keep them in the box next year, and there you go.
there you go. There you go. Oh, it was on sale. I had to get another one.
Yeah.
So, number one, Monstar.
This should come as no surprise to anybody if you've seen any of the shows before, but we're just going to play with this.
Knight Rider, a shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who does not exist. Michael Knight, a young loner on a crusade to champion the cause of the innocent, the helpless, the powerless, in a world of criminals who operate above the law.
Oh, there it is. If you saw the episode, coincidentally, ironically, when I displayed this, which would be 1A or 1B, I also revealed that, which is always going to be 1A. So, like with your Monstar, that'd be number one every year. It would just be. But even though Kit is a vehicle, he is still an action figure because he has a voice and a personality, and you got Michael with him. So it's a 2-for-1 for number one. And I think, John, you said it best on our episode of the reveal. Episode 4? 5? Maybe? I think it was 5.
Sure.
Where I think you said it best is, I heard you see it rather than see you see it, which is still one of the best because I audibly went, oh! Just, yeah. So, you know, a lone crusader. Look at, and there's the red eye, Michael in the car. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. Again, this uncalled for, unnecessary. Don't know why it's there. Particularly because when you're in a secret government agency, you're just like, hey, 92,000. Other than that, this a pure. Oh god, look, you see Michael right there. Look. Just a pure. It's really. I mean, I scooped up. I just off the top of my head right now. This year I scooped up my top 2 grails. I mean, with Kit and the flag. It was a good summer. It was a good summer. Oh, just again, something that brings you joy and you just look at and just smile and go, yeah. So there's number one. Number one is is Kit. Obviously, that is the supremo uno, but trying to not have that, because again, everybody wouldn't know. We would like top 10. Okay. Here's numbers, like you said earlier. Here's numbers 1 through 10. Now I have to do 11 through 20. You know, so.
Wait, the flag is 1 through 10 all by itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
Don't you think it deserves that? Wait, let's just see if we can see. Look.
It's getting crowded on there.
Oh no, it's not. There's it looks like it. There's so much room, and because again, I got the figure so spread out. Do you know how many more vehicles I could hold on top of it and still hold all those figures and you just move? Oh my god, it's ridiculous. But that's why that would be number one. But so I decided to go figure out, and yes, Kit is a figure. So,
I'm
did you have that pegged as number one for me?
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, that's why I'm a little surprised you didn't have more vehicles, because you got some real good ones this year.
Yeah.
That was my thing.
Yeah, but again, nothing top 10 worthy. The Snowcat is great. The Dragonfly is great. Then some other odds and ends. Nothing really, really. No, the Devilfish okay. Nothing really top 10 material. No, no. I mean,
And I
like
think the
if I had a classic Sky Striker or a classic Dragonfly, now we're talking. But these other vehicles, they're great. Don't I love them? I mean, I bought them for a reason. I mean, but nothing that's lighting the world on fire.
and I'll say I'm also surprised that you didn't have any Tito's on the list.
You know, it's funny because I looked at those and the figures I got this year of Tito. I love Tito. Man, except for the one that I have of him that looks like him. The other two. I'm sorry, the other two I got this year. They just sculpt him poorly. He. I got him because it's Tito, but
Mhm.
he looks like he's taking a dump. He's like, how do you, how do you? I just and that's. I mean, again, I get joy because it's Tito, but they could have
Mhm.
sculpted him better. And I get what they were going for, but he was a better looking guy than the way those two figures are sculpted.
I mean, that's why they teamed him up with Rick
Oh,
Martel
because he was the
after
model
all.
eventually.
And that's what I was wondering, because like similarly, I've I've really fleshed out my Cyclops collection this year. Like half of this list could have easily been different Cyclopses. Um, but I mean, honestly, this is the only one that's like,
Worthy.
I don't know. Yeah, that's worthy, because I've bought both new ones and old ones. Like that, Hasbro put out a new line earlier this year that had like the astonishing X-Men era Cyclops in it, and he's up there and he's fine. Um, I also got the flight jacket Cyclops. I got the Toy Biz version where he's wearing this uniform, like with the alternate paint job, and that was also like a big get. Bless you. The Toy Biz when he's in the gym league. So I bought a good amount of Cyclops one, but this is like this is the one that was like an achievement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was wondering if it was something similar with your Tito's.
Yeah. No. No. Because there's still one that I know of. There could be more. There's one that I know of that I have been searching for, and it was funny because years ago I saw him on Amazon, and he was still in box, and he was in his El Matador gear at the time, and he was 35. I'm like, I'm not gonna pay 35 for Tito, but now that thing's gotta be rolling around $100, give or take, and I should have just gone send it now. So I know I'm missing that specific Tito Santana figure. I don't know how many they made of him. I'm sure I could Google and get a comprehensive list, but I've got both of the LJNs, him in his original blue trunks and his repaint with Rick Martel, in the white trunks for Strike Force. I've got a classic. I've actually got my favorite figure of him. I bought unboxed, and I actually bought it, and I don't remember when I got it. That's why I didn't put it in here. I could have gotten it this year. I bought it in box. Um, it's the best looking rendition of Tito. It is complete late '80s, early '90s Tito Santana. His red shirt with him on it says Arriba. He's still got the Strike Force boots. Um, I've got the stupid that everybody loves, and I don't know why. Like I watch like Matt Cardona and Brian Myers, the major podcast. They love the little Hasbros that all came with special actions, but I thought those were just crap. But I have two of him.
There's a charm to them.
I
Like,
guess, but one's
yeah.
one's faded, one's in much better condition. And then I found one. I don't even know what line it's from. He's about this big. He's like a little LJN. He's not posable, but he's like doing the Ariba pose. Um, so yeah, that's why I didn't go with Tito. Because as much as I love Tito, those figures I got because I'm like I want to be a Tito completionist, but they're just they make him look stupid. It's just just his face, and it's you look across the board except for the one that's really really good. He's just I'm like that's not. Come on, Tito always had a smile. Riba. He wasn't like. Anyway,
It's hard to make faces.
it is. And then, like I said, I got the Firefly figures and the D&D figures, which are fine. They're not the best. I got them because I saw the movie and was like, "Oh, I must have these figures," and I got them. And I was like, no, "They're okay." The movie's just great though, but yeah. And like this Psylocke almost made the list. Nightcrawler did, but I can't remember if I got Nightcrawler last year. There's a couple of
That's a
rogues.
good Nightcrawler too.
Yeah, there's a couple of rogues. Gambit is a really good figure, but he didn't spark the emotion like we talked about earlier. So anyway,
Yeah, there are a lot of them. Like I'm looking at like a Colossus up there. I don't know if I got that guy this year or last year. Um, and there's plenty. I mean, I'm sitting around as we're recording this. Like it's early in the month. Um, Black Friday shopping season has sort of just wound up. Um, so
I
there's
bought nothing.
I bought a few things that, like, if I had bought them earlier in the year, could have easily made this list. But I didn't even want to bother trying to include them um, at this point. But overall, it was a good year for collecting toys.
Yeah, when we started talking about doing this, and I came in here, I'm like, "What did I get this year?" And I started going, "Oh, oh, 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 there's a lot more. Oh, there's that too. Oh, I forgot about that." And then there were some that were on the border. Like, did I get that this year? Or did I get it last year? And therein lies some of the rub. But I'm happy with my top 10 overall. Again, lots of honorable mentions. So many good figures. But like I said, I could have crowded it with GI Joe classifieds, but I didn't. I think others needed mention.
I know for me, this was a big year in collecting. In that, I mean, I'm still going to get Marvel Legends as ones that I'm interested in come out, but like this was the year that I really, for lack of a better term, like completed, the ones I was
Mm-hmm.
collecting. There are very few ones that have come out that I would say that like I need.
And
Um,
therein lies my problem with all the classifieds they're coming out with. And there's that meme that we've sent back and forth from Futurama. Shut up and take my money.
yeah, like this year, I really fleshed out a lot of my old Toy Biz collection, which takes up a lot of the space that is behind the camera, which I get a big kick out of that one. Um, this year, I started branching out from just Marvel Legends and bought weird stuff from completely different lines and like sort of niche creators, but also just stuff like Super 7
Mm-hmm.
Ultimates, which I have just absolutely adored. So it's I know it's been a great year for me
Me too.
in just sort of, yes, I know for you it's all downhill from
Yeah,
here. So
it's it's on cruise control.
yeah. Before we wrap up, with 2024 right around the corner, um, do you want to make any predictions and or New Year's resolutions for your toy collecting hobby for next year?
Hmm.
How do you think you're going to proceed in the future?
Like I said a few minutes ago, it's going to spiral out of control with the amount of classifieds they're showing. Um,
Oh, that reminds me. Have you seen the pictures of like actual physical pictures of Big Boa yet?
yes,
Looks good.
and again, my Cobra collection is starting to build now, and before I wasn't collecting them, and it's starting to build. Um, so my prediction is for classifieds, I'm going to be getting a whole lot more and may start turning into a completionist with that series, which I didn't ever want to do. Like, again, as cool as a bat is, ah, no, I don't need a bat. Crimson bat, nope, don't care. Um, but
Arctic bat,
nope, even less. But the snow serpent looks good.
Python patrol bat.
Yeah, even the Python Patrol. I mean, I might pick up Copperhead. Um, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But definitely there are just a slew of Joes coming out. Low Light, Mutton Junkyard, Duke and Scarlet in the classic package, um, Buzzer and Ripper. I want the Dreadnoks. Um,
I might even get low light.
yeah,
He's great.
there are just so many good looking figures coming out for classified. With everything else, we'll wait and see. Again, with Marvel, that's hit or miss. That's what I'm looking for. My favorite character, but even that has really cooled off. Same with WWE guys. I'm still waiting on a handful. I definitely want to say, there's a Cody Rhodes I didn't even think about. But I need a Sami Zayn. I need a Sami Zayn. I really want a Sami Zayn KO2 pack, but since they lost the belts, they probably won't even do that anymore. Um, yeah. So right now, Hasbro is going to get my money. That's my prediction for 2024. Is Hasbro will be getting a lot of my money. But as we've stated before, do I still love collecting? Yep.
When we went to Applejack's, do you remember what you said when you were pointing me towards like the area that I should go look in?
No, I don't.
You said something like, "Oh, you like that sort of random crap." And I think one of my predictions for 2024 is more random crap.
Fair.
Um,
Isn't there?
because
What did you
like
get? What was
with
that little vehicle you got? What was that line called? And he had the visor, the little tiny guy in the space vehicle.
oh yeah, my little Starcom
Okay, thank you. I couldn't
vehicle.
remember the name of it.
Yeah. But I'll tell you already, like this year, and these are things that won't arrive until 2024, so I'm counting them. Um, like I've with my Marvel Legends collection, um, you know, sort of finishing at least the building stage. Um, like I've already started sort of backing some Kickstarter campaigns, like pre-ordering some things from sort of, for lack of a better word, weird random companies.
Yeah,
Um,
there'll be a.
and it's sort of a mix of like sort of niche bits of nostalgia with also things like when I bought that Mask of Red Death figure.
Mhm.
Um, there's some things that I've put a pre-order in on just because I think it's real cool. And it, speaking of action figures as sort of like in art media, there's some stuff out there that I was like, it would be great to have this on my shelf because it's real cool. It's not tied to like an old cartoon or video game that I played in 1989, but it's just a well-made thing. So I think I'm going to get a branch out a little more next year. My second prediction, ironically, is wrestlers. There's about like 4 or 5, yeah, we'll say 4 or 5 wrestlers out there, who I've just always loved for a long time, and I think I should build out sort of that little corner of the collection. I've got my eyes on those coming up next year.
Yeah, I'll be getting something rather large in the summer. I know because I already pre-ordered it. So
Is it the thing?
don't spoil it if you remember. Don't spoil it.
I was going to say, is it the thing I think it is?
I think you do.
Okay. So yes, Hasbro's getting a lot of your money next year.
Well, Hasbro already has that money. That's already paid off.
Well, good. It's been a good year.
Yeah, it's been, for the most part.
Well, then to wrap things up, I'm John.
And I'm Cohan.
And we bought toys this year.
Bought a lot of toys this year because it makes us happy.
Oh. Who knows what we'll buy next year? Good night, everybody.
Good night.